Okay, so let's just jump right in. We all tend to think of our brain as the absolute command center, right? It's the boss of everything we think, feel, and do. But what if there's another major player, a kind of silent partner that we've been totally overlooking? That's what we're digging into today. This incredibly powerful and frankly kind of mind-blowing connection between our gut and our brain. So let me ask you something. What if the real key to your emotional well-being, the ups and downs that kind of shape your entire day, what if it wasn't just in your head, but was actually located deep inside your digestive system? It sounds wild, I know, but this is the fascinating idea we're unpacking, that the trillions of tiny microbes living in your gut are constantly having this deep and meaningful conversation with your brain. So let's get into it with our first section, a surprising connection, because, this whole gut-brain conversation isn't just about your mood. It actually goes way deeper, touching one of our most basic biological needs, sleep. It turns out how you sleep has a massive impact on your gut, and, you guessed it, your gut health can totally dictate how well you sleep. Which brings us right to this, your gut on sleep. We're going to start by looking at this really close relationship between the microbes living inside you and your nightly rest. And trust me, this isn't a one-way street. It is a constant looping conversation. And this slide really lays it all out. When you have a bad night's sleep, it messes with the daily rhythms of your gut bacteria. It can reduce the good guys and lower the production of healthy compounds they make. But, and here's the kicker, an unhappy, out-of-balance gut can then turn around and make your sleep even worse. You get locked into this vicious cycle. It's a real chicken and egg situation. And just how deep does this connection go? Well, get this. A whole bunch of our gut bacteria literally operate on their own circadian schedules. Just like us, they have a 24-hour internal clock. So when we mess up our sleep schedule, it's like we're giving our gut microbes a really bad case of jet lag. All right, now for a section I'm calling Transplanting Your Mood. If an out-of-whack gut can mess with our sleep and our mood, it begs a really radical question. Could we potentially treat mood disorders by fixing the gut? And this leads us to a really cutting-edge and, let's be honest, kind of bizarre-sounding therapy. It's called fecal microbiota transplantation, or FMT for short. And yeah, it is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. The entire goal is to press the reset button on a person's gut ecosystem by introducing a healthy one from a donor. And scientists are seriously looking at this as a potential treatment for depression. And before you dismiss this as some fringe idea, check this out. This isn't just a theory. A huge meta-analysis. That's where they combine the results of a bunch of different high-quality studies, 12 of them in this case. They came to a pretty powerful conclusion. They found that FMT seems to be an effective adjunctive therapy for depression. Now, that word adjunctive is really key here. It means it's used alongside other treatments, not as some kind of standalone miracle cure. So how big of an effect are we actually talking about? Well, researchers use this metric called the Standardized Mean Difference, or SMD, to compare results from different studies on a level playing field. And this number, negative 1.21, well, in the world of statistics, that's a really big deal. It shows a large and significant drop in depressive symptoms for the people who received the FMT. So this all leads us to the billion-dollar question, right? How on earth is any of this possible? How can changing bacteria in your gut actually change the chemistry in your brain? Well, the answer lies in something we can think of as a biological superhighway. Let's just get right to the heart of it. This is probably the question you've been asking this whole time. How does this communication even work? How does a signal travel all the way from your gut up to your brain to affect something as complicated as your mood? Scientists call this connection the microbiota gut-brain axis. The best way to think about it is like a constant two-way information superhighway running between your gut and your brain, sending messages back and forth 24/7. And this superhighway has three main lanes. First, you've got chemical messengers. Your gut bacteria are basically tiny chemical factories pumping out crucial neurotransmitters. Like, did you know over 90% of your body's serotonin, the feel-good chemical, is made in your gut? Second, there's a direct nerve pathway. The vagus nerve is like a high-speed fiber optic cable running straight from the gut to the brain. And third, there's the immune system. Your gut microbes are constantly talking to your immune cells, controlling inflammation, which we know is tied to both depression and sleep. Okay, so this all sounds incredibly promising. But as with any exciting new science, we gotta pump the brakes a little bit and talk about the details. This is the section on promise, problems, and nuance, because it's so important to look at the fine print. For one thing, how you get the transplant really matters. The big analysis found that while taking it in a pill worked, direct delivery methods, think endoscopy or an enema, actually had a slightly bigger effect. And that makes sense, right? It just ensures more of those new microbes get right where they need to go. And what about durability? Like, how long does this even last? Well, the studies showed the biggest benefits happened in the first 5 months. But after about 6 months, the effects started to fade away. So the big takeaway here is that this probably isn't a one and done kind of fix. It might require repeated treatments to keep the benefits going. It also seems to work better for certain groups of people. The data showed a much stronger effect in patients who also had irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, which, when you think about it, makes a ton of sense. IBS is seen as a classic disorder of that gut-brain axis, so it suggests these patients have an underlying problem that FMT is perfectly designed to help. Okay, now for what might be the most crucial slide of this whole explainer. Despite all the exciting results, the researchers themselves gave the overall certainty of the evidence a grade of very low. Now, this doesn't mean the findings are wrong, but it is a huge blinking sign telling us to be cautious. This is a very new field. And here's why they were so cautious. The 12 studies they looked at were all pretty different from each other. They used different patient groups, different doses, different delivery methods. They even used different scales to measure depression. All that variation creates a lot of statistical noise, which just makes it hard to be 100% certain about the real effect. The bottom line is this field is incredibly exciting, but we're still in the super early days. So, after all that, the incredible promise, the real-world problems, all the scientific nuance, where do we land? What is the big picture takeaway from all this fascinating and emerging science? What does it mean for the future of medicine? I think the ultimate takeaway is this. Our microbiome represents a brand new frontier for human health. We're just now starting to understand that what happens in our gut does not stay in our gut. It has these massive, profound implications for how we think, how we feel, and even how we sleep. And that leaves us with one final, provocative question to chew on. As we get better and better at understanding and shaping this internal world of ours, will the future of mental health care look less like a standard prescription pill and more like a carefully crafted, personalized living ecosystem designed just for you? Food for thought.